My name is Sakis Theodoridis. I'm part of the Sony Nimway sales team. And on behalf of this team, I'm welcoming you to this hybrid event. It's both an on-site event and webinar. And hybrid, of course, is the main topic of today. We have a small agenda here. I will go you through. I will talk to you and show a little bit, talk about what we try to contribute with in this area from a technology provider. Mikael from IFMA, representative. We talk about IFMA and a little bit update on the events that is going on overall here in Sweden. And then, of course, the main topic is Darja Smite, professor from Blekinge University, that is going to talk about, based on the research they've done for many years with corporations, all over the world, what the workplace is, the hybrid workplace, and of course, what is the trends and future around it. Very interesting thing to hear. We have been collaborating quite a lot with Darja, take input from that kind of research in order to, from a technology provider, try to meet those trends and needs. And then for the people here, we are going to have a small demo around the office to showcase the Sony Nimway workplace. And then, so let's start. Nimway. Nimway is a workplace solution that, gives you, as a company, superpower to discover and encourage your workplace usage. It's about supporting both the people, the management that have planned to shape the good workplace, but also the employees to make sure that they have their needs covered all the time. This is an ongoing process, and we think we have something to offer here. And we do that with, let's say, 3 pillars in a way. And it's about data and, of course, sensors. We are sensors that we are using, and not only sensors, but also a lot of other hardware related to the sensors. But it's about the data that we work with and have a long experience with. Of course, the hardware is, even if they are intelligent, it's not enough if you don't start using it in an analytical way. So that's also something that we provide for. And third, the pillar, perhaps even most important, is about the experience and the interaction between the users and the office and the technology. So we provide also very rich ways to interface with this, let's say, Nimway system. I will show you a couple of examples of each of these 3 pillars in a way now, so we make it a bit clearer. The workplace sensors, of course, this is something we have been from Sony Mobile working on for many, many years. So we know how to use these sensing technologies to apply this in the workplace area in the best way. And what we have learned also since starting out is that, companies need to have, it's not only, I need a sensor, it's having a clear understanding of a strategy or what kind of sensors, because we know larger offices, even this one, and of course larger ones, needs an array, a combination of different sensors that solves different use cases. That's what we actually provide with our solution. And it's everything from the left here. It's indoor climate is to know how people or how the office feels in terms of temperature, humidity, air quality, sound levels. We need to have the proper ones to give the right user experiences. It's about occupancy, understanding what resources are used, when. And of course, adding one more dimension in that, we have how many people are using the resources. And resources, this office, part of the office, and rooms. All this, of course, we think are important. All this data, of course, comes to the second pillar. It's the analytical. We have worked a lot to provide, I would say, a very easy to use analytical platform. You don't need to be a BI analytics. You need to be, a normal user, and you can start analyzing what's happening in the office. And here also it's about different use cases. It's about understanding things like, do we have rooms enough? What types of rooms? Are there areas we don't use or are overused, utilized? And once again, adding the climate sensor thing is, do we have the right temperature, and can we see a correlation between bad air and low usage and vice versa? All these kind of things are important, and that's why we provide it in easy to consume way. This is a dashboard that shows actually both. The first row is real time, so what is happening right now in this specific office, this is the point, which is this one. So you can have a very quick overview of occupancy, how many people are in here, and of course how the office feels in terms of climate. And then you can start doing things in real time if needed. Otherwise, you also have the historical data where you can go and drill down about all these types of sensors and data that you have there. The analytical view is, of course, important. And the last pillar we talked about is the encourage is the interaction between employees, the system, the office. And here, of course, something we spent a lot of time, and we support a lot of functionality around team collaboration, team schedule. How can we support people and teams find each other, work better? Wayfinding, of course, in bigger offices, more important. Finding and booking rooms, desks. Also things like, that comes a little bit on the side, but management of visitors and parking things is also something that we can provide with this user experience apps. This is a screenshot from the web app. And once again, when I log in, I have to the left a lot of functionality there. With what I can do is find if I need a workplace, a room. I can go into a detailed view of the team schedule. So a lot of very rich information what I can do with app, either if I'm here at the office or at home and planning to come to the office. I also see my agenda, a snapshot of where are my team members today. So on the right side bottom, you see the team members, and the symbols there. It's a little bit small here, but it shows that if people are working here or at home or travel, all the and also there, the blue, there is real-time information. I get and in real-time occupancy information. So at the moment, how is the office used? Team schedule is very important. That's why we have spent, and that's something we are launching very soon. Everything from who is at the office. It should be easy to find people, at least they are in the office. When are they planning? So I can have a look for next week, for example. I'm planning to, should I go to the office, which day? So I have my team members at the same time, for example. Of course, for cities and offices where people commute a long way, it's very important. And of course, where are people at the office? And once again, bigger offices with several floors, it's easy to find the people. Everything to make sure, saving time and making it easy for people to find each other and collaborate. So all these things that we provide is also something that we also integrate with what we call the workplace system, because there are a lot of other systems that has data that we can start using. For example, we have video equipment systems, the latest ones that provide sensors already invested by the companies. We can integrate that. We have a few companies, customers that are doing that right now in Nimway system. So together with the Nimway data and this external data, we create an even more holistic view of the office and office-related data. So this openness is something that we've worked on the last year or years, and I think it's definitely the future to provide a tool, a foundation for companies to create a workplace that is a good balance between the corporate needs, costs, company look at the costs, of course, but also on the other side to fulfill the needs and have the right spaces for the employees. So that's it from my side. Any questions here or from the online, perhaps. Can you, before we move to Michael here? Microsoft Places, I saw. Yes, good point. Yeah, go back here. That's why we believe in this openness. So Microsoft Places would be fit into the right box down where we see customer interfaces. Microsoft Places could be one of those interfaces where it has good value, and if that's implemented, we could integrate our sensor systems and the platform we deliver together with Places. We have started looking into it and waiting, of course, with great interest. Yeah, what will come from Places, but we have it in the radar and will be part of this bigger workplace ecosystem.
Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoy this sunny morning. Right now, I'm on the 23rd floor of the Point in Malmö. On my left, I see the bridge to Copenhagen. On the other side, I see other parts of Malmö. It's a great office. It's a great building. It's very easy to communicate. I took the train from Kävlinge. It took me about 30 minutes, and then it was 1 minute before I entered the elevator. So it's a great place to work at Malmö earlier. So today we have some slides here. I would like to thank one of our partners, Sony, for arranging this hybrid network session. It's always difficult to have you coming to the office, and that's I think that's one of the topics we will have today. How should we encourage people to go to the office, whether it's a normal business or it's a network? But that we'll hear more about with Darja in a few seconds. So thank you, Sony, for arranging this network. It's a great pleasure. And to be able to run this kind of activities, we are dependent on our partners, and you see our partners on these slides. So thank you for all of them. Some companies are well known, and others are not so well. But you see Sony at the bottom of this slide. So thank you again. Next, yes, thank you. Next, if you're in Stockholm next week, you can go to Karolinska sjukhuset to have a visit there, physical visit at Karolinska. And then see if there are more slides. And then if you're in Gothenburg in 2 weeks, you have to go to new renovated Feskekyrka. I don't know if it's right pronounced, Feskekyrka, at in the center of the city. So you see the different kind of arrangements we have in IFMA. Some are very broad and some of them are very small and interesting, I think. Next slide. And then we go to Stockholm again to have a physical meeting at Electrolux. That might be interesting if you're in Stockholm in 3 weeks. And then I would encourage you to nominate companies, people that has done some kind of innovation in our business, our industry, the FM business. So if you have any suggestions, please send a mail that's good enough to Malin at ifma.se, and she will contact you so we can share this prize on the 12th of November, where we have our annual conference in Stockholm, and that's the Nordic Workplace. And here you see some of the people that will be there. Fortunately, you don't find my face there, but there are more other interesting people than me you can find on this slide. So I hope many of you will attend this meeting, this conference at the Sergel Hub in Stockholm. It's not too late to you can still call it register. And then finally, if you find IFMA's activities interesting, you have different ways to connect with us. You can follow us on LinkedIn, or you can have our monthly newsletters or our website. So there are different ways of finding out what we're doing in our little networking. And then perhaps, is that the last slide? Yes. So once again, thank you for arranging this, Sony. I'm fully convinced that we will have an interesting topic now on remote and hybrid workplace working. And let's see if we find any exceptional findings today. Can you promise that, Darja? Can you promise us that? Something extraordinary. So stay tuned, and you see Darja. See you soon. Bye.
And welcome, everybody. I'm very delighted to be here, both on site and digitally and remotely for you who are online. I'm Darja Smite. I'm a professor of software engineering. I work with tech companies, and not only, on very different topics. I used to be an expert on distributed work and virtual ways of working before the pandemic, and the pandemic turned me into an expert on remote and hybrid working. So it gave me another life for my career. And before being in academia, I actually had a normal job, a real job, one would say, in industry. So I know what I'm talking about. I work with very exciting companies. I work in companies in Sweden and in Norway, and there are sites around the world. Among those companies, you can see Ericsson, Spotify, Sony, Nimway. Also, Sony is part of creative and innovative startup accelerator. Telenor, Storebrand, ABB, and so on. And ever since the pandemic, we have followed very closely a number of companies, and also the news. I think this is the topic where everybody in the room and everybody who has a job and those who don't have a job have an opinion about. Should people come to the office, or should they stay remotely working from home, or maybe working from a summer house? In Norway, it's very popular to work from a mountain cabin. And I think this is makes my research very valuable, because I try to look for data and evidence and bring it to the table of those who hold discussions at the job place or at home in the family. So what we see here is that the distance work today is not only about having an opinion, but aligning on one concrete strategy at the workplace. The Handelskammare, Stockholm's Handelskammare, made a large research of employers and asked them what, in reality, how many days a week people come to work, and at the same time, how many days would they like people to come to work? And here we see a very interesting and a little bit surprising finding for me, that 28% of respondents want people full-time to return to the office. At the same time, the majority of people chose 3 days to be in the office. And somehow we have to compensate for the gap between these two figures, and also understand whether we have to gravitate towards more office-based or office-first strategies, or more remote-first, or somewhere in the middle, let's say hybrid strategies. So these are the 5 different strategies that we see companies follow and implement. And to be honest, in the last 4 years, there has been a lot of experimentation and adjustments to the strategies. So companies that used to be to have a certain strategy, they have already changed their strategies and experimented. So how can we decide what's good for just our company? What is the evidence, or what is the type of knowledge we need to gather to make a right decision? Let's go through 5 questions that we have defined for companies to follow. And the first one is very, very simple. Are your employees able to carry out their work remotely? And here I would like to focus on 4 different things. First of all, you can ask what type of tasks, work tasks people do. Are they more dependent on hardware, tools, infrastructure, or customers? That's why people need to be on site and cannot work remotely. Or is it about individual tasks that everyone can do from wherever? Or maybe your company works on collaborative team tasks that actually require on-site close communication. So this is one of the aspects. The other aspect is just physically, can we work remotely? Is there an infrastructure that supports access to different resources that are available in the company? Or communication tools, do we have enough rich communication tools and equipment like cameras, good microphones to be able to seamlessly communicate with each other if that is necessary? And of course, suitable work setup. I guess everyone in the beginning of the pandemic has had some neck pain, back pain, because we were sitting in kitchens, right? Or someone who has children have occupied the child's rooms with very, very low tables. So we've all been there and we've all suffered. And a lot of people, a lot of companies have invested into home office equally as having the office at work. And people have received a sum of money to buy desks that are raisable, for example, raising desks, or to buy monitors, not to be looking into small screens, laptop screens. Other companies, we also see a big difference in age. For example, more senior people with higher salaries, they have very comfortable workplaces at home. More junior people who maybe use all their money to afford rent, they don't have very comfortable places, and they really depend on the ergonomic workplace at the job. And then, of course, last but not least, I think one of the fundamental questions is whether a person is equipped with the knowledge and skills and experience to be working independently from home or from a remote location. And this is both ability to carry out work tasks, just understanding what to do, but also without supervision. Or you don't have maybe self-discipline. A lot of people I've talked to, maybe not a lot, but some people, they get so distracted when they work from home. They see the dirty dishes, they see dirty laundry, they see some dust on the table. So they get distracted. They get they mix their private life duties with the work duties. And that's why it's good for some of us to work remotely, and it's not good for some of us to work remotely. It's not for everybody. And it's very important to understand whether each individual stands on this question. So the second question is, of course, about priorities. If you as an employer want to have happy people, because we know that happy people produce good outcome at work, then we need to understand what makes people happy. And let me show you some data here. These are the preferences for work location in 2022. This is the end of 2022, where we aggregated data from surveys in 14 different companies. And the blue colors indicate that people want to work more from the office, and the more red colors from home. And one simple conclusion runs here. There is not a single company where everybody wants the same thing. So having one-fits-all strategy doesn't satisfy everybody. So there doesn't exist an easy way out of this situation. Ironically, Norwegian companies happen to be on the top of this list, with more people wanting to work from home. And as a researcher, I have no answer to why is that. Maybe one speculation is that they have smaller companies. So smaller companies tend to work as more family businesses, where people have very close relationships, enjoy each other's company, and thus come to the office more often. But you can say this is old information. You should have updated your research, Darja. And so I did. I will show you 2 recent examples of companies with employees choosing own on-site presence. So in Sweden, we don't, and in these particular companies, it's company A is a Norwegian company with a Swedish site as well, and company B is a Swedish company with some people working from India in an Indian office. These companies don't count office presence and don't force compliance with the strategy. And one of them has a flexible, with one exception, fully remote is not an option. But people have freedom to decide how much they come to work. And the second company has a 50% during the whole year. So it's quite hard to understand what that means. It can mean 2-3 days on site and remotely during the week, but it also can be 2 weeks fully on site and 2 weeks fully remote. So it's a little bit of more flexible strategy than it sounds on paper. And what you see here is a combination of current work arrangement, so how many days per week people come on site, and how many would they like to come on site. And what we see here is that the majority of answers are on a diagonal, which means that you come to the office as much as you wish to come, or as little as you wish to come. And this makes people happy. So when we ask these people whether they are happy with their work arrangement, more than 90% say that they are happy. So what do we learn from this? If we let people choose what they want, you will end up with people with very different patterns of office presence. Interestingly enough, the company that has very flexible strategy attracts more people on site. So you can see that 44% come 4-5 days a week. This is office first, heavily office first strategy. So I think that is one of the unexpected results in our research. What this company also does, together with their flexible strategy, they believe that people are grown-up adults, responsible enough to make a good decision. But they are very clear that the office is their main place of work. They have renovated the offices. They have upgraded their canteen. Don't underestimate the value of the good food at work. We are now getting obsessed with eating healthy and eating good. And most companies, also Sony in Lund, has even negotiated the menu to have some pancake Thursdays also to attract people to the office. And this is very important. And we see it also in our research. Company B has implemented ice cream for free. First it was on Fridays, but now it's every day. It's not anything special anymore, but it's quite interesting. Another anecdote I can say that yet another company has introduced lunch and learn seminars where they buy kanelbulle, cinnamon buns. And the cinnamon bun, think about it, it costs 15-20 crowns. It's very cheap. But people commute to work to get it for free. So it's quite ironic how little it takes to lure people into the office. but we don't always know what's good for us, right? So when you let people decide how much to come to the office, they might decide out of their habit. And we carry a lot of legacy from the pandemic. We work from home out of habit. And there is research speaking against it, that the high degree of remote isolated work from home is not good for us as human beings. One of them is here. We have asked in these two companies, this is very recent data, by the way. One research in company A was carried out last June, and company B this year's June, before the summer. And what we see is that half and more than half of the respondents say on days when they work from home, they work more than 8 hours, because the boundary between the work and life is blurred. You cannot close the door and walk home and say, there is no spillover from work to my private life. It's very hard to be disciplined and really have the boundaries introduced at home. That's why one of the aspects that people talk about in relation to well-being is the potential burnout effect when people work in isolation 4 or 5 days away a week from home and work more than they should. And let's face the truth, the routines, the very routines, daily routines, on days when we work in the office and on days when we work from home are very different. So some people I've talked to say they don't shower, they wear pajamas at least until midday, they eat not on regular hours, they hardly communicate, they have very focused work, and that's one of the core benefits. However, if you do it 1 or 2 days a week, that's fine. If you do it 5 days a week, it might not be that good for us. And to show you a little bit about this, work well-being topic, it is very clear in our research that there are people who choose to have work-life integration, where private errands are put into the daily routine inside in the middle of the day, in the morning, after lunch, instead of lunch, in the afternoon. Here you have darker color, doctor's appointment, lunch and gym, pick up flowers, physiotherapy, daycare, gym, car service, and so on. And there are also people who come 4 or 5 days a week to the office to segregate the life and the work, the private life and the work life. So these are people who don't want the integration of things in the middle. Yes, and one fundamental question in this discussion about what's good for us, it's also a fight of ego before we go, or should it be vice versa? Should we put group and team needs before our individual needs? So some of the companies that highly depend on collaboration, they actually encourage teams to have dialogues and discussions about each other's needs of others' presence in the office. So if I'm more senior person, I know what to do. I have experience, skills, discipline. I have a good work ergonomics at home. I should not only think about if I need others, but if I'm needed by others at work. Maybe I have a mentee. Maybe I have junior team members who want to learn from more senior people. So it's not only about what I want, it's about what the group needs. And I wish to say that the teamwork, the outcome of the team effort is much bigger than the sum of individual contributions. We have lived in the era where we have employed a lot of brilliant people who are introverts, at least in tech companies, introverted, brilliant developers who cannot talk to each other. And we have moved to more agile ways of working, team-oriented, collaboration-oriented. And our recruitment strategies have also changed to employing people type of social beings who like to work and collaborate in a team. And I think we will lose that if we go and focus only on me, what I want. So the follow-up question on this issue is, what defines your organizational culture? Is it about individuals working in a company, or is it about collaboration? Also, is it about autocratic leadership style with a supervision, or is it about self-management and autonomy? So depending on a leadership style and a need and focus on collaboration, you can also change and adjust your strategy. So moving on, there is also one important aspect, dependence on companies, on networks and social capital. I think nowadays we are in transition because we live with a legacy of pre-pandemic times. Most of us have had the same job before 2020. Most of us, not all of us, obviously. We have young colleagues here in the audience that started a few weeks or a few months ago. But most of us know each other, and we live on the not expense, but we survive thanks to the network that has been established before the pandemic. Let's imagine ourselves 10 years from now, when most of the senior guys will retire in the company. I work with one company where the average age of employees is over 50. Imagine in 10, 15 years, most of them will retire. So we need to integrate young people into the social networks, because social networks is what makes us efficient at work. It's knowing who is who, it's knowing who knows what, who is where, and who does what. Because a lot of things where we depend on each other are done through social contracts, through negotiations. We can speed up so much knowing other people. So corporate contact network is very important. But what we see is that with the high degree of remote working, there is a poor social integration of new hires. The networks become static, which means that we talk to the same people we used to talk before, and we have more silos. And let me illustrate this with a more recent survey findings, where the degree of individual office presence is combined with the ability to build relationships at work. We have asked several questions: chances to get to know other people, people taking a personal interest in you, feeling connected with teammates and belonging to the team. And we can clearly see that people who come 1-2 days to the office, they have the lowest responses here. And people who come less than 1 day a week, I think that they are higher, not only because they are fewer, but maybe because if you don't have any regular office presence, you start coping with this absence of office presence in a different way, radically different way. So I think that my research doesn't show that fully remote cannot function. It can, but it requires a completely different organizational culture. And if this is the way the company goes, you need to relaunch the organizational culture, relaunch the way you integrate people into the social network and how you activate this social network. The second point here is the less you work on site, the less you're aware of what others are doing. And here is another example. This time, I combine it with team co-presence, because the questions we ask here is about the awareness of the work of team members from the same local site, and knowing what team members from other sites are doing and members of other teams in the same location. So we clearly see that those who don't have regular office presence, they score the lowest here. And the reason for this is that even if you have coping mechanisms to keep in touch with the team members, immediate team members, the horizon of your network becomes your team. It takes more office days on site to have this spontaneous being introduced to other people outside of your immediate communication network. The last of the 5 questions is whether employee-driven innovation is critical for your company. And to be honest, most of companies ask me about this, and there is a limited answer I can give because measuring innovation is very difficult. If you ask a company, how much innovation did you produce before the pandemic when everybody was on site, and how much do you do now? It's very hard to measure. So one of the things that we measure are creative meetings and how they are carried out. And here I want to bring up the topic of digital meeting fatigue. I mean, everyone knows how we log off mentally, cognitively from meetings that last more than 1 hour. Digital meetings are tough. If nobody uses the camera, it's so easy to just drift away and start daydreaming, thinking about something, checking emails or writing emails. So you multitask a lot when you're involved in meetings. Now, if these meetings are creative meetings, this is really bad news. And let me drive you through a typical creative and brainstorming meeting. In a brainstorming meeting, we want to generate as many ideas as freely as possible and not limit this brainstorming ideation process. And in a digital meeting, to make sure we finish on time, we usually, what do? We bring ideas prepared to the meeting. So we skip the wide ideation already from the start. Now, what do we do next? In the same room, what we do usually in a discussion, that we talk over each other. There is a lot of people involved in a discussion and talking at the same time, perhaps as well. In a digital meeting, first of all, people have to take turns. Somebody has to moderate who speaks now, who speaks next. And in a hybrid meeting, it's even worse because remote people are second-class citizens and they have very slim chances of participating in a discussion. And then, of course, not everybody is comfortable with this taking turns and speaking up in digital meetings. So the amount of discussion is also much smaller. But then somewhere in the middle or towards the end, when we want to converge, we get hit by the fatigue. We get so tired that everybody thinks, okay, let's pick the least worst idea or the best idea of the ones that we have discussed so far and just go on. So I think that one of the wonderful things with the Swedish culture is consensus-driven decision-making. And this means that everybody in the room needs to be convinced that this is the best idea. This minimizes the rework. the more we plan, the more we ideate, the smaller the chances that we will fail somewhere down the line. So this is the blessing and the curse of the Swedish culture. And I think this digital brainstorming kills that culture, because we are inclined to set to the best at the moment to finish on time. Because we also become much less available for planning follow-up meetings. Our calendars are full. The more we work remotely, the more full our calendars are with maybe 30 minutes time slot booked with someone to discuss something that we could solve in 5 minutes on site. So for those who are interested in the question of where are we heading, we're not heading to fully on-site work, because hybrid is our future. We will have to combine the in-office and remote working. The question is, how do we moderate that? And one of the things that we clearly see in our research is that pushing for individual office presence doesn't make any sense. In the morning here, while grabbing a coffee, we have been discussing that people who come to the office and see nobody, empty offices, they come less, and then they don't come at all. And I think the policies that are now being discussed in companies should really target co-presence and not simply office presence. Here on the slide, you see 4 different teams in a company that has individual office presence as the target. And you can see the thicker the lines, the more people are co-present on the same days. And the thinner the lines, the less you are in the office together. So what we see here is that there can be parts of the team that come on the different days than other parts of the same team. So co-presence is what we want to encourage, if collaboration, of course, is important. And a lot of companies now invest into a workplace that also supports the collaborative culture. It can be activity-based architecture. It can be open landscape to deal with the lower office presence than 100 or 70%. So we need to make adjustments. But this adjustment should really go hand in hand with the culture. And I think what we learned this morning about Nimway system was very interesting, that you can, using the apps, Nimway apps, you can also see who is present and where they are sitting. And the companies I work with, many companies, they either want, not the company management, but the people who are doing the work, they either want to have team dedicated areas, or want to know where people sit to be able to book desks together. Because let's say you have a mandatory office presence, you force someone to commute to work, and then they sit with someone they don't know. That is not very motivating people. And to illustrate, making a small illustration, I come from Karlskrona, and just a few weeks ago, Telenor in Karlskrona has opened their new offices. They have downsized their office space, but they also moved into more office-oriented working, with 2 days working from home and 3 days working in the office. And they have made a fantastic job. You can actually see that it's a campus on the seaside. It's maybe not as fantastic and long as overseeing view as Sony, but it's also a fantastic view that drives some people to work from the office. And it has opened up with more socialization spaces and meeting corners, and being more attractive as opposed to some offices that are quite boring to commute to. And with this, I will leave some minutes for questions, and I thank you for your attention.
one thing I want question was that the awareness of what other are doing, and there were people that were low attendance in office, didn't know what others were doing. So the question is more, would they need to know more, or is it that some people don't care that much? I do this, and so do you have any ideas on?
Yes.
Or is it that's why they are? I'm not interested, or I'm very individual working. I don't need to go to the office there. So is there any?
There is definitely an association here, a relationship. So what we see is that we have also created, based on statistical tests, profiles. Who are those people who come 4 or 5 days a week to the office? And who are those people who stay working from home most of the days? And what we see is those who are in the office more, they do collaborative work. They have others depending on them. Those who are more working from home, they have individual tasks. The problem here is that this is more a reaction than a strategy. A lot of these individual tasks are, first of all, because we learned to divide work so well during the pandemic out of need that we proceed with that behavior. And what I hear from people is that when we develop very deep specialization and very little redundancy of knowledge. So individuals and team do very diverse, different tasks than each other. We cannot have backup behavior. If I'm sick, nobody else in the team can do what I do. And this is a problem because we see people who are sick who are working from home. And the second thing is that we started recruiting people on a distance. So if there is a manager who distributes the work, he or she picks individual tasks and gives to those people who are working remotely. And this is another behavior that is radically different from the behaviors that we had pre-pandemic. Whether it is good, in some cases it might, but in tech companies, joint effort is better than one person's contributions, individual contributions. So I think that in some companies it can be beneficial, in others it can be really harm the dynamic at the workplace.
Shoot in the chat.
Yes?
Andreas is asking, when it comes to the actual office, the space, what's the experience? Is that a good summary?
Have the space twice. What does that really mean?
Maybe we should ask Andreas to clarify. There is another one from Marlene. Thanks for the presentation. Do you see a difference between industries, occupational groups regarding preferences for coming into the office?
Yes, definitely. So one of the interesting work that we have done is we have followed up this hype question. Are women more affected by the return to the office policies than men? And we see that it's not true. So if you put all men and all women, we have this one of the surveys with 924 respondents. It's broad survey in the whole company they have a software development department, but they also have HR people answering the survey, administration management answering the survey. And if you put everyone in one bowl and shake it, then you get statistically significant differences between what women want and what men want. If you distribute and stratify the analysis by department, meaning by the type of work people do, then you will see that women in tech are like men in tech. And then women in administration are like men in administration, but different to women and men in tech. So we are similar in what we prefer and what we do than we think. And to me, the big answer is the job. The job is central to understanding how much should I or should I not come to the office.
I question you mentioned that, for example, having ice cream or food in the office is a good magnet. Do you have any either research or like an educated guess of what companies are using to get people back in the office? Like I've heard a company hiring puppies and come to the office, so the employees will come to play with the puppies. But then I've also heard that like in the UK, people are just coming for the breakfast and then leaving to go back home again. So it's like, what actually works?
I actually think that the one breakfast is a very low expense to build network. It's enough for networking. So I have encouraged, it's not just about coming for a full day at work or staying a full day at home. We clearly see that we don't do just collaborative tasks or just individual tasks. We have a mixture of different duties. So do collaboration on site and then go home for 3 hours of uninterrupted individual work with more reporting or documentation. So we don't need to choose just to be in the office or just at home. We can also mix it. And I encourage some people to come to have lunch and one meeting. As little as that is enough to compensate for the lack of human interaction. Yes, speaking about different things that attract people to the office, we of course see that food, really good coffee is one of the magnets, other magnets. Having a good coffee machine is worth it. Some companies have barista, full-time barista that is preparing coffee. That is also a good magnet. Gaming in tech companies, we see they have gaming rooms, and people after work, they spend a lot of time because especially in big cities and in multinational companies with a lot of expats, you don't have a big social network beside the workplace. So you socialize at work, and then to socialize, you can provide gym at work, you can provide gaming rooms at work, you can also encourage different sport competitions. Table tennis is one of the things that is popular in Sweden, or billiards. Having those attractive options at work, how to spend free time is very important. And of course, maybe not bringing puppies because I don't know, doesn't sound very sustainable where these puppies go afterwards. But I have heard that some companies allowed the pandemic dogs in the office. So you can bring your own puppy or your own dog and spend time on site. This is one of the things that I indeed heard.
You've offered 5 questions. Who would you advise to ask themselves these questions?
Good question. I think it goes from the first person on the ground to the first person on top of the organization. A lot of so let's imagine I ask, what is the culture of my organization? It's not a question only reserved to the higher management. It's also about my responsibility, because we also make the culture. It's us. The culture is in the walls. The culture is among the people. So I think that is one of the toughest questions out of 5. And I think that we have also tried to coach teams to discuss a lot of these questions together. We have meetings with line managers because they are squeezed in the middle between me, what individuals want, and the higher management who sets the strategy and says mandatory presence of 3 days a week from 1st of October. And they need to implement and convince people that this is a good decision. And then also the top managers who make these policies. They are the ones who can, through the dialogue and understanding the priorities. Because if you ask a company whether they want happy people, everybody would say, of course we do. But is that the first priority? Can we let everybody, let's say you have a company with more red guys than the blue guys in this spectrum of the 5 policies. Is that good for the business? I mean, happy people alone do not drive the revenues, do not create the products and deliver the services. We also need other triggers and other mechanisms to make people work together and contribute to what the company is set to do. Yes.
We have a clarification from Andreas.
Yes.
Without everyone at the office, you probably do not need all the space. Is it not a good idea to use the money you save to make the office a better experience? You mentioned good food, coffee, tech, etc.
Yes, it's a very good question. And it is so, definitely. We don't need 100% unless, I've seen several companies who downsize, have half of the space, they make it really, really nice, and then more people want to come. And then they don't have the place. So it's a little bit a catch-22. You need to first decide whether people in the office are important or not, and then build the story and the offering around it. I also seen companies that say it is important, office is important if we want to bring people back, and then, oh, by the way, we don't have a parking place for free anymore. So these things need to go hand in hand. And as attractive as it can sound to save money on real estate, you need to be smart about it. You cannot make people feel unwanted in the office if that's your strategy.
Another question, can you get people back to the office with a purpose? Do you believe that it is helpful to know upfront when your connected colleagues are going to the office, so you go more with a purpose to collaborate or commute?
Yes, definitely. I think this is very clear in our research, and we have followed up companies who have this. They don't have Nimway, but they used to have Google Sheets where everyone could report where they are coming. And we could see that on days where you already have a lot of people, more people come on the same day. So they register themselves in the morning when they see who is in the office. Maybe they also see what the weather is like. Weather forecast actually correlates with office presence as well nowadays.
We have a question from Alpha. Some organizations tell us that measuring occupancy and second coordinate and manage bookings on the floor prevent conflicts between employees. Is it not necessary that they can manage without, as they always did? They see it as a necessary cost instead of investment. How do you see this? Is it nice? When is it a must-have? What has changed or not?
Very difficult to understand, but let me translate it a little bit as to the best of my understanding. The conflicts, if we don't talk about interpersonal conflicts, but the conflicts of rushing into the office, not finding the place, of course, occupancy is very important. In fact, there are companies that also have shifts. So, for example, some teams use the team space. The team spaces are for booking, and some teams can book the space for 2 days a week, and other teams can book the same space for 2 other days a week. So this is a very important tool if you downsize the office and you don't expect everyone to come 5 days a week. You can't really avoid conflicts without measuring occupancy.
Last question from Dorte. The company is considered the green agenda in relation to their current needs of desk and space?
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons why people justify working remotely is the lack of commute and pollution associated with that. Unfortunately, it has to have go hand in hand with also smart office usage. So, for example, one of the companies that we work with has not downsized, but decreased the maintenance of their offices on Mondays and Fridays because they know that office building is not occupied all day, so they can close floors on certain days. They don't need lighting and electricity running on those days for offices that might be used by 2 people instead of 50 people. They don't have maintenance in terms of cleaning services. So this is one of the smart ways that definitely contributes to sustainability. Yes, thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.